Hello, AP Environmental Science. The purpose of this video is to give students who are absent an opportunity to get caught up, or if we didn't finish the notes, give you an opportunity to finish up, or if I was going too fast, give those students an opportunity to get the remainder of the notes. All right, remember please, because this is a video recording, you can pause it, fast forward, go backwards. I will be moving at a faster speed than I traditionally do in the classroom. Without further ado, here we go. All right, so population didn't really start increasing until about 200 years ago. Well, didn't start increasing rapidly until about 200 years ago. Prior to that, it was really, really slow. There are a variety of reasons for that. The primary reason for that is the ability to care for ourselves, the ability to build structures to protect ourselves, and the beginning of industrialization. Biggest populations: China, India, and USA in that order. There's a huge disparity between India's population and the United States. India is about 1.4 billion with a B, and the USA, is about 326, 327 million. So easily, India's population is about 4 times that of the United States. Growth rate after 1960 decreased to 1.2%. But remember, any growth rate over 0 is increasing the population. In 1962, there was a huge famine in China, and that really slowed the rate. Additionally, since the 60s, many other countries have industrialized and have moved the majority of their population from poverty to the middle class, and are considered developed. And in developed nations, traditionally, you have fewer children than you do in undeveloped nations. Okay, moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, growth rate is not distributed evenly. 98% of the growth rate can be attributed to undeveloped nations. 2% developed nations. Traditionally, undeveloped nations, they have more children, or couples have more children, and that is to bring in extra money from labor. If you have a farm and you need people to work and to help with the farm, you'll have more kids. Or if you are raising livestock, same idea. You'll have more kids. Or if simply, 2 children, working isn't going to help with the wages enough, you have more kids to bring in more wages to help support the family. There is a lot of migration happening, especially from Northern Africa and the Middle East to Europe and other nations. A lot of this is fueled by conflict and war and civil war. And in some cases, it's directly attributable to climate change. If you can't grow crops because you don't have enough water, or if you can't afford feed or water for your livestock, you pack up the family and you migrate to the city. And hopefully you can find work in the city, and find a place to live in the city. And if not, then you start thinking about leaving the country to find a location where you would be able to support your family. Moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, please use this as an opportunity to practice with your notes. Let's see, if you're not sure about this one, you might take a look back at number, give me 1 second, number 2. Yeah, so it's China, number 1, India, number 2, United States, number 3. Why do you think the population growth rate decreased after 1960? So I told you why it decreased in 1962. This is not actually in your notes. This is something you would have picked up from hearing me describe it in class. Yeah, so industrialization has been occurring over the last 40, 50 years. And as countries get industrialized and they're able to get more people out of the poverty limit up to the middle class, pardon my yawn, there are fewer needs for families to have large numbers of children. What type or types of nations have the largest growth rates? If you can't remember, you might take a look back at number 4. Yeah, so undeveloped, third world nations, developing nations, all of those answers would be correct. All right, moving on. So obviously, the larger the human population is, the larger impact it has on ecosystems. So the larger the footprint. Remember, an I with the up arrow means increase. Lower left-hand picture is the Amazon rainforest. As you can see, that habitat is being fragmented. It's probably being cleared for agriculture or livestock. And then in the lower right-hand corner, you see the Great Pacific Ocean Garbage Patch, or part of it. Obviously, the more people on the planet, the more resources we need, lower left-hand picture, and the more pollution and degradation that occurs, lower right-hand. It's slightly different definition for cultural carrying capacity as compared to carrying capacity. Remember, carrying capacity is simply the largest population that an ecosystem can support. Cultural carrying capacity is related, obviously, to humans, and it really involves staying comfortable and not having any discomfort in your livelihood without decreasing the ability of Earth to sustain future life. So, living comfortably and sustainably. And remember, the D arrow means decrease. So every time you see the I arrow, I would put just an up arrow. Anytime you see the D arrow, I would put a down arrow. I'm moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so natural capital basically is the value of nature. We're obviously degrading it. Pick 3 of these. So obviously biodiversity has been decreasing. The more pesticides we use, the more resistance insects and other pathogens gain because of their reproductive rate. Predator extinctions are the big one because many humans are hunting and killing predators because they are threatening their livestock or threatening the humans themselves or maybe the children of the humans for protection. There are many other examples of extinctions. We obviously are using our resources too quickly. We've got about 50 years of oil, about 80 years of natural gas, about 180 of coal, pollution, ecosystem disruption, you name it. By the way, the extinction rate on planet Earth is the fastest it's ever been, and that's primarily due to habitat loss or habitat fragmentation by human use. Factors that affect population size. Immigration is the opposite of immigration, so it is the sum of immigration plus births that increase minus the sum of the decrease, immigration, and deaths. I'm moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, a couple new vocabulary terms for you. Total fertility rate, average number of children born in a population. In the 2 weeks leading up to the last unit test and final, we will be practicing on a number of calculations for population, and I will be providing you with all of the formulas, and you'll see these words and terms in these formulas. So the net change in population is the additions, immigration, and births, minus the deletions, emigration, and deaths. Obviously, if you have more immigration and death than you have immigration and birth, you will have a negative population change and a population decrease. Crude birth rate and death rate, births and deaths per 1,000 per year. By the way, anytime you see rate, it's going to be expressed as a percentage. A replacement level fertility rate. So currently globally, it's, or at least when this book was written, 2-3 years ago, it was 2.1. So it's the average number of kids born per couple in order to replace the couple. And you might wonder why it's not exactly 2. If we're talking about a couple of 2, some children die before they get to reproductive age, so technically they cannot replace the parents if they're dead. I'm sorry for all the yawning. It's been a long day. Moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, please use this as an opportunity to practice a little bit. What are 3 negative effects on natural capital? Might want to take a look back at number, just a second. All right, I'm going to take a look back at number 8. Yeah, so we got decrease of biodiversity, extinctions, pest resistance, pollution, using resources too quickly. You can add a few: overfishing, overharvesting, deforestation. All of these are related to an expanding human population. Define total fertility rate. Take a look at number 10. All right. Average number of children born into a population. And what's the formula for population change? Might want to take a look at number 12 for that one. Or 11, beg your pardon. Yeah, so it's births plus immigration, the sum of that, minus the sum of deaths and immigration. Okay, changes to total fertility rate. So from 55 to 2012, it dropped from 5 to 2.5. And again, that's primarily because many nations during that time period have industrialized and have access to better education, have access to better health care, which requires fewer children if you can get better jobs. Zero population growth. The idea is that the total fertility rate, must become equal to the fertility replacement level of 2.1. So, because we're still at 2.5, we are not at zero population growth. Until we can get that number from 2.5 down to 2.1, the population will continue to expand. I'm moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so some statistics about the U.S. In 1900, we were 76 million. In 2015, we were 322. So what is that? That's about quadruple, almost quintuple, about 4.5 times increase in 115 years. Our total fertility rate is decreasing. And in 2015, 40% of the population increase was due to immigration. We are seen as the destination for many immigrants. And there are more immigrants coming from China than Mexico, which previously was our largest immigration total. Moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Why higher growth rates in undeveloped nations? Mostly child labor. I mean, those kids, God, they look about 3, 4, 5. And remember, when mom and dad, or in many cases, maybe even just dad, is the only labor, the only salary, if he's not bringing home enough money to feed the family, you're going to need to put the kids to work. And if that's not enough, you're going to need to have more kids to put them to work too. All right, why is it lower in developed nations? So pick 2 of these. It's more costly to raise and educate kids. I'm just starting to get to the point where I'm going to be paying for college. Oldest son is second year of junior college, doing the free college. Younger son's probably going to do the same thing, but after that, we're going to have to help him out with college. Urbanization, access to family planning, prevention of reproduction, better education and employment opportunities for women, which mean that they are less likely to have children and many children. Later marriage age, and religions and traditions. I'm moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so how do we know a nation's population is healthy? So life expectancy and infant mortality. So if you have a high life expectancy and a low infant mortality, you have a very healthy population. Causes for high infant mortality. It's primarily nutrition, also disease. So as you can see from the graph, mortality rate in infants is much, much higher for the rest of the world and in less developed nations. And the reason why it's very close for the rest of the world is because the rest of the world, other than developed countries, is primarily from undeveloped countries. I'm moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, use this as an opportunity to practice a little bit. In order to get to zero population growth, what 2 items must become equal? You might want to take a look at number 14 if you can't remember. Yeah, so the total fertility rate must become equal to the fertility replacement level. Total fertility rate's 2.5. Fertility replacement levels 2.1. Therefore, we still have a net population growth. We are not at 0. What are the characteristics of the U.S. population? If you can't remember, you might want to take a look at number 15. Yeah, so we've pretty much multiplied by 4.5 in 115 years. Our total fertility rate, though, is decreasing, so we're having fewer children. 40% of our population increase is due to immigration as of 2015, and more people are coming from China now than Mexico, and Mexico has always been our largest contributor in terms of immigration. What are 2 reasons that most developed nations have a lower growth rate than developed ones? You might want to take a look at number 17. Yeah, so religion, tradition, education, access to family planning, family prevention, education and employment, especially for women, getting married later in life. All those are good and valid reasons. Okay, onward. Reasons to migrate. It's jobs and money. Sometimes it's conflict, or it could be um, different religions. An environmental refugee is one that is migrating due to drought or climate change. And it's not necessarily just drought, it could be severe flooding, flood your crops, can't afford to repair that land. All right, how long can the human population grow? There's a huge variation of opinions here. Many people think we've already passed tipping points, which means that there are some irreversible things happening in the environment. We really need to get better control on the growth rates in undeveloped nations, because eventually these citizens are going to want access to electricity, and unless there is help from the developed nations, um, these undeveloped nations are probably going to burn coal. Huge amount of overuse and overconsumption, overfishing, overharvesting by developed nations. A lot of greed in developed nations. We are going to have to figure out, using our brain capacity, how to innovate and invent things to stop resource use and to migrate, sorry, pardon the pun, from fossil fuel use, non renewable resources to renewable ones like solar and wind. I'm moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Main reasons for slowing population growth. There are about 1/8 of the population on this planet aren't getting their basic needs. Death rates will increase, potentially starvation, potentially more pandemics, or certainly just disease. China, Brazil, and India. China is doing a really good job of transitioning away from coal to more renewable energy. But Brazil and India both have huge coal reserves, and their populations are growing at a rapid rate. And many of those people are going to need electricity in the next couple of decades. Brazil, obviously famous or infamous, depending on how you look at it, at deforestation of the Amazon. Predictions: in the next 30 years, we will move from 7.8, which are where we are about right now, to 10.8. Well, pardon me. Predictions that there will end up somewhere between 7.8 and 10.8 billion in the next 30 years. I'm moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Why is it so difficult to predict? The data may not be reliable. We're assuming that fertility trends are going to continue and or change. And there's different ways to use the method and different ways to calculate it. All right. moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What are 2 reasons why humans migrate? Might want to take a look back at number 20. Yeah, so the biggest reasons are money, jobs, could be conflict, could be religious persecution, could be climate change, that are causing you not to be able to feed your family. For those people are referred to as environmental refugees. This is an opinion. Do you think our current population, 7.6, 7.7 billion, somewhere around there, we have already surpassed the Earth's carrying capacity? I do. Yeah, I think it was probably closer to about 6 billion, which means, and regardless of whether it's 6 billion or 7.5 billion, because we're going to be another couple billion in the next couple decades, we're headed for a crash. And it likely will be starvation, which is going to be exacerbated by climate change. But I think we really need to slow the population growth on this planet. 2 reasons why it's difficult to predict human future population. You might want to take a look at number 24. Yeah, so data unreliability, different ways to use the data, different types of calculations, lots of assumptions about what fertility is going to look like in the coming decades. There are a lot of variables that are hard to predict. All right, on to some math. Okay, so at the beginning of 2017, the population of a town was 8615. During 2017, birth rates were 173, death rates 69, immigration 85, and emigration 29. What was the population at the end of the year? So remember, the formula is population change is the sum of births and immigration minus the sum of deaths and emigration. I really would encourage you guys to do these calculations on your own. You're going to need to do these, if not on the unit test or the final, definitely on the AP test. You need to practice. Pause the video as I'm about to show you the answer. All right, so it's 173 and 85. That's the increase. 69 and 29. That's the decrease. So that means it increased a total of 160. 160 plus 8615 is 8775. All right, the birth and death rates equal B, or death rates, divided by the original population times 100. What were the birth and death rates? Again, I'm encouraging you guys to pause the video, do these calculations on your own to see if you know how to do them. I'll show you the answers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so the birth rate, 173 divided by 8615 times 100. That's going to be a 2%. Death rate, 69 divided by 8615 times 100, a 0.8. So obviously, if you have a higher birth rate than death rate, that means you are increasing your population. Next question. Migration rate is equal to immigration minus emigration divided by the original population times 100. What is the migration rate? If it's a positive migration rate, that means your immigration is higher. If you have a negative immigration or migration rate, that means your emigration is higher. Showing you the answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So it is 0.65, which means we have more immigration than emigration. Next question. All right, what's the growth rate? That is the new population minus the original population divided by the average between the new and original times 100. Showing you the answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so the growth rate, 87.75 minus the original, divided by the average between the two, which is 86.95, 1.84% growth rate. Last question. Use the rule of 70 to see how long for the population to double. And the way that you do this is the rule of 70, the doubling time, which is t to the d, is equal to 70 divided by the growth rate. Showing you the answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so that is 38 years. So 70 divided by 1.84% gives you a 38-year doubling time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the notes. We will see you soon.